Hello, friends. What is the English Bible, the authorized version? There was the growth of the Bible from the earliest to Reformation times. The task of translation was completed by the issue of King James Bible or the authorized version published in 1611. What was the timeline of Francis Bacon? The timeline of Francis Bacon was from 1561 to 1626, which were the English prose works written by Francis Bacon. Number 1. Bacon's English prose works include his essays, first appeared in 1597. It contained only 10 essays. Number 2. The second edition, published in 1612, and third edition, published in 1625, raised the number to 38 essays and 58 essays respectively. Number 3. The Advancement of Learning, published in 1605, containing the substance of his philosophy. Number 4. Popthegs, written in 1625, a kind of jest book. Number 5. The New Atlantis, left unfinished at his death, a philosophical romance modelled upon Thomas More's Utopia, which were the Latin prose works of Bacon. Number 1. De Augmentis Scientiarum, written in 1623. Number 2. Novum Organum, written in 1620. Number 3. Silvarum, left incomplete. Number 4. Scala Intellectus. Number 5. Prodromi. Number 6. Philosophia Secunda. What was the timeline of Roger Ascham? The timeline of Roger Ascham was from 1515 to 68, which were the English prose works written by Roger Ascham. His two chief prose works, were Toxophilus, written in 1545, a treatise in the form of a dialogue on archery. Number 2, The Schoolmaster, written in 1570, an educational work containing some ideas that were then fairly fresh and enlightening. What was the timeline of John Lyly? The timeline of John Lyly was from 1554 to 1606, which were the English prose works written by John Lyly. Euphues, The Anatomy of Wheat, written in 1579, which made him one of the foremost figures of the day. Number 2, Euphues and his England, second part, written in 1580. It is the kind of travel romance recounting the adventures of Euphues, a young Athenian. What was the timeline of Richard Hooker? The timeline of Richard Hooker was from 1554 to 1600, which were the English prose works written by Richard Hooker. His great works, at which he labored during the greater part of his life, was Of the Laws of Ecclesiastical Polity. The first 4 of the proposed 8 books were issued in 1594. What was the timeline of Sir Thomas Overbury? The timeline of Sir Thomas Overbury was 1581 to 1613, which were the English prose works written by Sir Thomas Overbury. Sir Thomas Overbury survives in literature as the author of a series of characters written in 1614, though he is probably not the author of all of them, based on the ancient Greek work of Theophrastus. The book consists of a number of concise character sketches of well-known types such as milkmaid, a pedant, a franklin, and an affected traveler. What was the timeline of Robert Burton? The timeline of Robert Burton was from 1577 to 1640, which were the English prose works written by Robert Burton. His famous work, The Anatomy of Melancholy, was first issued in 1621 and then constantly revised and reissued. It is an elaborate and discursive study of melancholy, its species and kinds, its causes, results, and cure. Who were the sermon writers? We have mentioned John Donne in previous videos, who was the most notable sermon writer of his group, and Here we can mention two other writers such as James Ussher and Joseph Hall. What was the timeline of James Ussher? The timeline of James Ussher was from 1581 to 1656, which were the sermons written by James Ussher. James Ussher's Chronologia Sacra was for a long time the standard work on biblical chronology. What was the timeline of Joseph Hall? The timeline of Joseph Hall was from 1574 to 1656, which were the works written by Joseph Hall. Hall's earliest work was in verse and consisted of a series of satires called Virgi Demierum, written in 1597, which were condemned by the church as being licentious. Thanks, friends.